Minecraft isn't the same anymore. I've been playing Minecraft since 2010, when the game was in its alpha edition. Certainly not as consistently, nor as deeply as some people have delved into it, but I do make a world at least once a year nowadays. My first world, and second, and third, and fourth, and so on, they all felt so real to me. I was in that world, alongside the structures and mobs and mines. Those buildings were a direct result of my actions. My handiwork ran through every wall, roof, and sculpture. I was the one diving deeply into those mines, searching for ore, and slowly lighting more and more of the darkness. There was no difference between my experience and that of the character, and I didn't experience the world as being merely an artifice of code. But as time went on, I noticed a shift. That sense of being within the world, a part of it, left me. I was increasingly outside of the game, increasingly a puppet master pulling Steve's strings. The game shifted from primarily experiential to primarily efficient. Maximizing progress and minimizing time were the name of the game. Before, my houses were simple and cozy. Now they're massive structures, mostly designed to hold my hoard of resources. Before, the animals were part of the natural environment, and the monsters were deadly threats waiting in the darkness. Now, animals are meat and leather, and monsters are just more inconvenient sources of items. Before, my mines were simple, surgical. Now, I terraform and strip the earth bare. A truly magical game was transformed into a merely entertaining way to spend time. Something very real happened here, and the usual answers of familiarity and nostalgia and an adolescent brain that sees everything as full of wonder don't satisfy me fully. I was convinced there was more to it than that, and when I encountered the philosophy of Martin Heidegger, I felt vindicated. His works gave me a new way to understand this baffling shift that had occurred without my intention, within Minecraft and without. So, my aim in this video is to analyze Minecraft through a Heideggerian lens, and see if I can both understand why my experience of Minecraft and maybe the world has shifted over time, and also use this fun game to explore some very interesting and important philosophy. This is intended as a follow-up to my last video on Terminal Redux and authenticity, where I raised some concerns with Heidegger's early philosophy of authenticity. The majority of this video will stand alone, but at the end I will engage in a direct dialogue with those stated concerns and leave Minecraft behind somewhat. I note too that a lot of this video will be based on my personal experience with Minecraft, and while this may not be optimal at first glance, I think it will work for illustrative purposes. And finally, I will be using Heidegger's later works to look at this topic. Those essays are different, to say the least. This is very important because if you are expecting a more analytic, objective treatment of things, you will be sorely disappointed. In fact, this very video will point out why that urge may, in fact, be the problem. Later, Heidegger moves more to the poetic, to the mythical, rather than the analytical. I hope that by the end of the video it will make sense why, but it may be a bit strange at first. As Heidegger himself says, the leap alone takes us into the neighborhood where thinking resides. In contrast to a steady progress, where we move unawares from one thing to the next, and everything remains alike, the leap takes us abruptly to a place where everything is different, so different that it strikes us as strange. I would encourage you to suspend disbelief for a time, leap with Heidegger into these ideas, see where these arguments take us, and try out the results. See if they make our shift in Minecraft make sense. So, what does Minecraft have to do with philosophy? Well, Minecraft is part of our lives, and also a game that reflects some of the basic structures of our lives. It's a game where you eat, live in a home, collect resources, and raise animals. It's a simplified reflection of a human life, to a certain extent. But really, if Minecraft is about anything, it's about building things. Most of the game's activities generally lead back to building in some direct or indirect way. If someone asked you what Minecraft is about, I bet you'd mention building as a prime candidate for what you do. In his essay, Building, Dwelling, Thinking, Heidegger is interested in building and how it relates to our essence as human beings. What really does it mean to build? Humans build as part of our dwellings. We build for the purpose of dwelling. We build homes, paths, nurseries, schools, churches, all to erect a space for our lives to unfold within. In fact, through an etymological analysis of the German word bauen, to build, he finds that it ultimately means to dwell, to live on the earth as a mortal, to care and safeguard. Notice how all those things I mentioned, homes, paths, nurseries, etc., are all built in order to safeguard some aspect of our lives. They are built out of care. The old word bauen, which says that man is insofar as he dwells, this word bauen, however, also means at the same time to cherish and protect, to preserve and care for, specifically to till the soil, to cultivate the vine. Such building only takes care. It tends the growth that ripens into fruit of its own accord. For Heidegger, man is not the master of language. Language is the master of man. Language largely determines the way that people understand the world. And when words or languages lose depth of meaning, our lives tend to also lose that same understanding. So it can be useful to investigate what words used to mean, where they get their roots from. This root of the meaning of building as dwelling makes sense when you're playing Minecraft. A location doesn't really feel like home, doesn't truly feel like a dwelling place until you've built it up. However, you only build a place up because you've experienced where you are as a dwelling place. You find the spot and make it your dwelling place, then you build. We do not dwell because we have built, but we build and have built because we dwell. That is, because we are dwellers. Think of the difference between a temporary campsite you sleep in for the night and your cozy cabin surrounded by your farm and lights and mine and animals. One of those is a temporary hovel for mere existing, and the other one is your dwelling place. It is comfort, peace, freedom. You are safeguarded here, and your dwelling place is also safeguarded by you. It's a mutual relationship, symbiotic. It's a home. Similarly, Heidegger arrives at a further meaning for dwelling using another etymological analysis and finds that dwelling used to mean a kind of safeguarding, preserving, and saving. It means to spare. However, this is something a bit deeper than you may think. Real sparing is something positive and takes place when we leave something beforehand in its own essence. To dwell, to be set at peace, means to remain at peace within the free, the preserve, the free sphere that safeguards each thing in its essence. In our everyday way of speaking, sparing would generally mean saving someone from some bad fate. People are spared from disease or death or misfortune. Here, sparing basically means allowing someone to be uninhibitedly. Uninhibitedly means without shackle or restraint. Sparing, then, even in our everyday way of speaking, is letting something be freely, to be itself fully. Sparing doesn't strictly mean saving someone from misfortune, it means allowing the free to freely be itself. This is man's essence as a dweller, to dwell as a mortal sparer on earth. But for Heidegger, on earth is more than just an empty phrase. On the earth means under the sky, and under the sky on the earth means remaining before the divinities, and dwelling alongside other mortals. These four, earth, sky, divinities, and mortals, constitute what Heidegger calls the fourfold, a kind of poetic way of understanding the world. We dwell as mortals fundamentally by sparing, by saving, and not wearing things out. What is it that we spare and save? We spare and save the fourfold. How do we do this? Let's look at the early hours of a Minecraft playthrough to see how. Earth is the serving bearer, blossoming and fruiting, spreading out in rock and water, rising up into plant and animal. Earth in the fourfold is the natural process of growth and change. It is the soil out of which the world of organic life grows. It is erosion and decay. In early Minecraft, the earth is spared and saved. Saving the earth does not master the earth, and does not subjugate it, which is merely one step from boundless spoliation. My mines didn't rip into the ground, laying bare its secrets. They were simple tunnels, only large enough for me to pass through. I replanted the trees I chopped. I housed a few animals, gave them names. My farms fit to the earth, surrounding barely modified bodies of water. My homes worked alongside what the earth gave. The sky is the vaulting path of the sun, the course of the changing moon, the wandering glitter of the stars, the years, seasons, and their changes, the light and dusk of day, the gloom and glow of night, the clemency and inclemency of the weather, the drifting clouds, and the blue depth of the ether. The sky is the unreachable, unchangeable pattern that still governs the way in which the earth blossoms. In early Minecraft, the sky is spared and saved. Mortals dwell in that they receive the sky as sky. They leave to the sun and the moon their journey, to the stars their courses, to the seasons their blessing and their inclemency. They do not turn night into day, nor day into a harassed unrest. For me, night was something real when I played. I remember the first time I turned on normal difficulty and watched as the Stygian darkness brought its lurking dangers. God forbid you got lost at night. Navigation was so difficult, and fighting back the numerous monsters made it that much harder. Daylight is quite literally a saving grace, burning the monsters down with holy light. Then I'd have to get as much done during the day as possible, careful not to stray too far from my house and bed should nighttime come, while also not tiring myself should my hunger bar deplete. The sky, the cycle of the world, the pattern that I had no effect on, determined my movements. The divinities are the beckoning messengers of the Godhead. Out of the holy sway of the Godhead, the God appears in his presence or withdraws into his concealment. This is difficult to interpret from an agnostic point of view, but for me the divinities are the hopes of man, the sense of wonder and mystery, and the spiritual feeling that I find inherent in myself. In early Minecraft, the divinities are spared and saved. Mortals dwell in that they await the divinities as divinities. In hope, they hold up to the divinities what is unhoped for. They wait for intimations of their coming, and do not mistake the signs of their absence. They do not make their gods for themselves, and do not worship idols. In the very depth of misfortune, they wait for the wheel that has been withdrawn. Within the game, the divinities can also be literally interpreted as the end bosses and mystical realms and forces. When I used to enter the world, I got such an intense feeling. I would get joy merely from playing the game, from existing itself. The overworld was the only thing accessible. Mystical forces are hinted at. Ruined nether portals, the enigmatic endermen, temples, ruins, old mines. The world feels large and deep. It seems like powers greater than you are at play. Even when I did make my first nether portal in a world, I would always give it a ceremonial room or throne befitting of its seemingly mystical nature. The mortals are the human beings. They are called mortals because they can die. To die means to be capable of death as death. Only man dies, and indeed continually, as long as remains on earth, under the sky, before the divinities. Only humans die. Animals simply perish. We have an awareness of death. We understand it as the end. We ritualize it. We grieve and mourn. We are the only creatures for whom death has real character. In early Minecraft, the mortality of mortals is spared and saved. Mortals dwell in that they initiate their own essential being, their being capable of death as death, into the use and practice of this capacity, so that there may be a good death. To initiate mortals into the essence of death in no way means to make death, as the empty nothing, the goal. Nor does it mean to darken dwelling by blindly staring toward the end. Minecraft is a game, and has a respawn mechanic. However, dying still has a very real character to it. I used to have very visceral reactions at the near-death mark. My heart would beat, my hands would sweat, and I'd get jumpy. Dying meant likely losing your hard-earned items, your experience points. For a game, the consequences of death are pretty harsh, and make it far from a meaningless and tensionless redo. For Heidegger, we dwell most properly when we build, because our buildings and structures, when built meaningfully, make a location, or a space, which allows the fourfold to be itself as itself. Think about searching for your place to settle in Minecraft. At first, the world is just a large expanse. You'll look around, explore, and eventually find a place to start your homestead. This spot, otherwise undifferentiated, becomes a home, a dwelling place. It becomes a space, a location, a place with character and meaning, whereas otherwise there are no real locations in the world. Through a location, a genuine location, we bring forth the fourfold. Remember this bringing forth, it will come back later. The building allows the site for earth, sky, divinities, and mortals to enter and dwell. Building, dwelling, these let and allow the fourfold to come together in their unity. They come to presence. They are safeguarded in their essence. Let us think for a while of a farmhouse in the Black Forest, which was built some 200 years ago by the dwelling of peasants. Here, the self-sufficiency of the power to let earth and heaven, divinities and mortals enter in simple oneness into things, ordered the house. It placed the farm on the wind-sheltered mountain slope looking south among the meadows close to the spring. It gave it the wide overhanging shingle roof whose proper slope bears up the burden of snow, and that, reaching deep down, shields the chambers against the storms of the long winter nights. It did not forget the altar corner behind the community table. It made room in its chamber for the hollowed places of childbed and the tree of the dead, for that is what they call a coffin here, the Totenbaum. And in this way, it designed for the different generations under one roof the character of their journey through time. My early Minecraft dwellings were always built around and within and according to the surrounding environment to fit naturally in. They'd let natural daylight in and had doors primarily for protection from the dangers of the night and a bed to weather the darkness. The animals kept and crops sowed were allowed to bloom as they will, with merciful harvesting. My nether portals were respected for their interdimensional nature, and the entire dwelling place was made around protection from threat. But now, in Minecraft, I don't dwell anymore. No matter how hard I try and force it, I just can't recapture that sense of dwelling. Each part of the fourfold goes unspared and unsaved in every single one of my playthroughs. The earth part of the fourfold is neglected. I can't help but see the ground as the not yet extracted. It is merely a source of coal and diamond and cobblestone and ore. I terraform and destroy. I fell forests of trees, raise hordes of livestock for slaughter. I force crops to grow with bone meal, and animals with crop. I don't let, I force. I master the earth, and thus neglect it. The sky part of the fourfold is neglected. Day and night are undifferentiated. Even on higher difficulties, I become so powerful that I can live through nearly every threat at night, so I just keep on working. The pattern of the world doesn't get respected. Days pass by unnoticed. The overwhelming light of my endless torches is enough to ensure that the threat of night is almost completely pacified. Why depend on the sun's saving light when you can wield it yourself? All time becomes filled with hustle and work. The divinities part of the fourfold is neglected. I no longer get that special feeling when playing. The creative passion is rare. I play the game as a series of checklists. I must do this in order to do that, in order to... Nothing is done merely for the joy of being. The literal divinities within the game get figured out and mastered. The enchanting mechanic becomes a minigame that can be maximized. The other realms, the hell analog called the Nether, and the mystical void-like dimension called the End, get invaded, colonized, and harvested. Even the bosses of Minecraft, charitably thought of as the gods within the game, get slain, reduced to another objective to be completed. The mortality part of the fourfold gets neglected. I no longer avoid death in the game. Even when I start a world, or when I'm carrying a load of diamonds, I just simply do not care. Experience can be farmed, more diamonds will be found. There is no tension anymore. A death is just a minor inconvenience. I'm likely to actually let mobs kill me, so I can sleep through the night and quickly regain my items. Death becomes another mechanic to be exploited. Dwelling has been lost. I think that, while the fourfold may seem like a strange idea to some, it adequately shows that many of the things we see as meaningful have changed. Now, I want to be clear here. There is nothing inherently wrong with terraforming the ground, with killing the wither, or with optimizing the game. From my point of view, these things are perfectly acceptable things to do, and the game shares this perspective by being completely neutral objective-wise, save for the achievement system. As we will see, the true problem that causes the loss of this feeling of dwelling isn't strictly the actions that you do. These actions and the way you go about them are mainly symptoms of a larger problem. Now, I also have to admit that I lied to you at the beginning of this video. When I said Minecraft is really about building structures, this was actually a lie. As just stated, Minecraft is completely neutral objective-wise. You don't have to build, or kill the Ender Dragon, or get diamond gear. You can literally just sit and do nothing, and from the game's POV, this is a valid way to play. Though this would be extremely boring, of course. So, in a game that is so objectiveless, with no inherent value system like a quest log, why does nearly every player end up building structures and homes and farming? And why do they seem to lose dwelling almost inevitably? Why does it seem like fate that my experience with the game follows this path? The first question was answered. We build because we are dwellers. But if we are dwellers, why do we lose dwelling? Why do I exploit and master? One easy answer is that I have the technology to do so. My diamond and netherite tools are very well equipped to do such things. They can strip down the earth in minutes. My sword can smite a horde in a few clicks. My axe can topple a forest with just a bit of patience. My hoe can turn chunks into a farm effortlessly. My armor can withstand even the mightiest of blows. This is true. My tools and equipment definitely lend themselves to these types of actions, but it doesn't seem to get to the heart of the matter. After all, more powerful tools don't necessarily imply more devastating uses. In the question concerning technology, Heidegger is deeply interested in technology, specifically modern technology. Bear with me for a bit, as it's going to get a bit technical, but I'll bring us back home. The traditional definition of technology is that it is a means to an end. It is instrumental. The current conception of technology, according to which it is a means and a human activity, can therefore be called the instrumental and anthropological definition of technology. Basically, technology is always used in order for something to happen. It's an intermediate item. As a means to an end, technology is about causing an effect. Wherever ends are pursued and means are employed, wherever instrumentality reigns, there reigns causality. Okay, technology is within the realm of causality. In our day, when talking about causes, we mean very specifically the entity/action that directly brought something about. The creeper and its explosion were the cause of the crater where my doorway used to be. My character was the cause of the house being built. Philosophy, though, recognizes 4 different types of causes. First is the efficient cause, the type of cause we just discussed, the primary catalyst for the effect. Second is the formal cause, the shape or form of the effect. Third is the material cause, the matter or energy utilized in the formation of the effect. And 4 is the final cause, the why or telos of the effect. For my house in Minecraft, the efficient cause would be me, the player character. The formal cause is this rectangular shape with the slant roof. The material causes are the various forms of wooden planks, the glass, the torches, and the grass forming the foundation. The final cause would be to provide myself shelter and protect myself from enemies and give myself a spawn point. These 4 are recognized as causes because without each aspect, the house could not be what it is. These 4 are directly responsible for my house's being. They always precede it. For Heidegger, naming the player character as just the efficient cause is somewhat reductive. In his example of smithing a sacrificial chalice, the silversmith considers carefully and gathers together the 3 aforementioned ways of being responsible and indebted. The player character plans and considers unifying the 4 causes into one to be able to bring the house into appearance. The 4 causes in one, through the player character as more than mere efficient cause, are responsible for the house lying before us as a house. They reveal a being as the being that it is. They occasion it, bring it forth. Occasioning has to do with the presencing of that which at any time comes to appearance in bringing forth. Bringing forth brings out of concealment and into unconcealment. Technology, as we have inquired into it, has led us to unconcealment, to revealing, to bringing forth. Technology is a way of revealing, of bringing forth. At this point, you may remember bringing forth was discussed earlier. It is building as a part of dwelling. So one way to think about bringing forth is whether what you're doing supports or denies dwelling. If you're like me, you may be a bit confused. This way of thinking may seem a bit strange. We're very used to thinking in terms of a subject acting upon an object, and that being all there is to it. This bringing forth sounds like it's more than that. And it is. Nowadays, when doing tasks, we talk about it as if it's only a human executing a series of steps on inert objects, but true artisanship being discussed here works with the object being shaped. Artisanship allows the natural qualities of the material to express itself, rather than forcing the worker's vision onto the object. They allow the thing to present itself. A painter allows the texture of the canvas to show through. Carpenters work with the grain of the wood. Novelists let their characters follow their own path. Bringing forth is about allowing and letting. Anyways, back to technology in Minecraft. Technology finds its root word in the Greek word techne. Techne is not actually just technological revealing, but has to do with the fine arts too. It is poetic. This revealing gathers together in advance the aspect and the matter of ship or house, with a view to the finished thing envisaged as completed, and from this gathering determines the manner of its construction. Thus, what is decisive in techne does not at all lie in making and manipulating, nor in the using of means, but rather in the revealing mentioned before. Notice how bringing forth is associated with revealing and with completion. Once the thing is done, it is left to its own. It doesn't merely stand by for further calling and ordering. Okay, this is all very fantastic, but earlier I said that part of the reason I lose dwelling is because my diamond tools are well suited to exploitation, and now I'm saying that technology is actually bringing forth, used in dwelling? Well, here Heidegger introduces a distinction between modern technology and more primitive technology. Primitive technology is what would be utilized in the earlier parts of the game. As already argued, the first hours of Minecraft tend to exhibit this bringing forth relationship, because we dwell within the world. We are but one part of the looming, large world and must work within the framework that we exist in. The work of the peasant does not challenge the soil of the field. In sowing grain, it places seed in the keeping of the forces of growth and watches over its increase. What is this if not dwelling as safeguarding and sparing the earth? Yet, as we've discussed, being on the earth presupposes the fourfold. Primitive technology, through bringing forth, spares and saves the fourfold. Modern technology, like my enchanted diamond set, has a different character though. Modern technology is a challenging, which puts to nature the unreasonable demand that it supply energy which can be extracted and stored as such. At some point in your Minecraft playthrough, you may notice a shift has occurred. Your tools have gotten better, sure, but I bet you notice you interact with the world differently. Your farm is likely much larger, more organized. Your stock of animals is sectioned, dense. Trees are cleared out and replanted in rows, if at all. Your mine is expansive, searching to unlock the minerals of the earth. You've begun to reveal the world as a source of energy, a source of resources. Extraction, storage, and standardization are the chief ways of understanding modern technology, which is not under the bringing forth mode of revelation. It is challenging forth. It doesn't allow a thing to be what it is. Modern technology imposes human uses onto the things around it. Agriculture is now the mechanized food industry. Air is now set upon to yield nitrogen, the earth to yield ore. You don't entrust the world to bringing forth, to the forces of growth and bloom. You set upon your farms and trees with bone meal and enchanted axes. You set upon your animals with food for the purpose of breeding and enlarging, then slaughter them as soon as they mature. You set upon the earth, trying to efficiently find the most resources. Your chests contain a wealth of stuff that could sate a horde, yet may never even be used. Under bringing forth, a cow was a cow, allowed to grow, graze, mate. Under challenging forth, a cow is a visualized block of code that matures after wheat is given to it, and when killed, has chances of yielding leather and beef. You set on that cow for those resources. Setting upon, through challenging forth, is about unlocking, exposing, efficiency, expediting, storing, transforming, regulating, and securing. The coal you harvest, for example, used to be gotten for the explicit and immediate purpose of making a torch for lighting. Now, your coal is mass harvested only to be put away, on call for some future indeterminate task. Everywhere, everything is ordered to stand by, to be immediately on hand. Indeed, to stand there just so that it may be on call for a further ordering. We call it standing reserve. Whatever stands by in the sense of standing reserve no longer stands over against us as object. Everything is flattened, valueless, and moot. Things no longer even have the texture of objects. They are less. They are almost lost in circumspection, having almost no character of their own. Standing reserve is the viewing of the world as calculable, exploitable, quantifiable, and merely objective. It's no false representation, and exploitative actions undertaken through challenging forth are not even strictly your fault. Only to the extent that man, for his part, is already challenged to exploit the energies of nature can this revealing that orders happen. If man is challenged, ordered, to do this, then does not man himself belong even more originally than nature within the standing reserve? He uses the funny example of human resources as a way to show that man himself is part of the standing reserve. Labor supply, aggregate demand, all of these reveal humanity as just another orderable, standardizable part of the world. In the game of Minecraft, initially, you were in the world, alongside it. Yet, as time goes on, even the player character becomes something to be optimized and ruled. Experience points farmed, the meaning of death lost. You become a person controlling the player character rather than identifying with them yourself. The player character himself joins the standing reserve, and really you yourself do too, as you are called upon to approach the world in this way. I doubt you chose to play like this, and you may have noticed that you never experience bringing forth or dwelling when you start a world anymore. No matter what, you seem to approach the world as standing reserve. It just kind of happened, and nothing forced you to do it. It feels like kind of an inevitable historical slide. This way of revealing the world, the way of understanding how to be a human and interact with each other and the things around us, is larger than some individual person or group or country or race or religion or even generation. The way that mankind changes its understanding is nebulous and beyond us. Heidegger calls the modern way of revealing enframing. Enframing tends to make us forget about this bringing forth relation, but also conceals revealing itself. Basically, enframing, as the historical incidence of challenging forth, not only conceals the fact that there are other ways of seeing the world, but conceals the fact that it itself is just a way of seeing the world. When I read these arguments against objectivity and quantification, I kind of groaned. I thought, of course the world is objective. Look how successful modern science has been. It's all true. For Minecraft, the game is obviously all code. This is trivially true. And it must be said that Heidegger would not disagree with you. Not in the slightest. He would point out, though, that there are multiple ways of experiencing the world. The rule of enframing threatens man with the possibility that it could be denied to him to enter into a more original revealing, and hence to experience the call of a more primal truth. For example, many people love keeping dogs as pets. They grow with them, nurture them, love them. For other people, dogs are warm-blooded quadrupeds whose circulatory and nervous systems can be reconfigured. One of these ways of encountering dogs is objective and scientific, while the other is poetic, loving. Neither of them are false, though. Minecraft is a game. Every happening within the game can be traced back to some block of code and graphic or sound file. It can be studied, modded, hacked, speedran, etc. But Minecraft is also a game where you can keep one cow named Dingleberry for an entire playthrough and feed them lots of wheat even though you only have one cow and Dingleberry is already fully grown. Is the latter way to play wrong in any way? No. Is it false? No. Enframing makes it seem as if poetic, human ways of experiencing the world are false, though, and covers up the fact that seeing the world in a primarily detached, scientific manner is just one way of experiencing it. So, we have arrived at enframing and challenging forth as the way that modern technology calls us to approach Minecraft and our world as standing reserve, as masterable. This is an epoch-defining way of understanding the being of beings, and is much larger than any single one of us. Our language, cultural values, institutions, all reinforce this way of understanding the world as masterable. What can we possibly do against this? How can we return to a more meaningful existence? Surprisingly, Heidegger is actually pretty hopeful. The fact that we are questioning the essence of technology is a good sign. In fact, this is our saving power. Always the destining of revealing holds complete sway over men, but that destining is never a fate that compels, for man becomes truly free insofar as he belongs to the realm of destining, and so becomes one who listens, though not one who simply obeys. We are within the epoch of Enframing, and we cannot control that. We can't strictly escape it, but we can listen to it without obeying. We can open ourselves. When we once open ourselves expressly to the essence of technology, we find ourselves unexpectedly taken into a freeing claim. By questioning technology, thinking on its essence, we have overcome the most dangerous effect of Enframing, which conceals the modes of revelation of the being of beings, and now we can try to find a way to overcome it. The rise of Enframing harbors its own downfall. We need to be careful though, as the essence of technology is not technological. Stemming the effects of technology cannot be accomplished by mastering technology, for this itself is approaching technology as standing reserve, as something to be mastered. Everything then depends on this, that we ponder this rising, and that, recollecting, we watch over it. How can this happen? Above all, through our catching sight of the essential unfolding in technology, instead of merely gaping at the technological. So long as we represent technology as an instrument, we remain transfixed in the will to master it. We press on past the essence of technology. For Heidegger, one way to combat the revealing of technology is through the fine arts, through poetry. One can only confront the true essence of technology by exploring its essence through a realm entirely different than the technological. Such a realm is art, but certainly only if reflection upon art, for its part, does not shut its eyes to the constellation of truth, concerning which we are questioning, for questioning is the piety of thought. Art is a possibility, and is why building dwelling thinking is so poetic and unphilosophical and weird and just different. We must turn to something different to illuminate how technology functions in its essence, and he did just that. Art compels us, it reveals things in much the same way that technology does, but may do so in a different light. I know building dwelling thinking definitely helped me encounter the world differently. While art may be a possibility, thinking, questioning, watching, and listening are absolutely essential. As stated at the beginning of the video, we must leap into thinking, let it take us to the unfamiliar. As for Minecraft, for one, I myself have felt glimpses, both within the world of Minecraft and without. Be mindful and patient as much as you possibly can. Watch someone play who's never played before. But more generally, don't forget the issue and keep an eye out for a new understanding. For me, Minecraft is an incredibly unique game that ultimately prompted me to examine my own life, to read something thought-provoking, and make this video. The game is special to me, and I want to see if I can get back to dwelling within it. Now, this is nominally a Minecraft video, but clearly it is equally interested in Heidegger. In the last video I made on Terminal Redux, I ended with a criticism of Heidegger's early work on authenticity, pointing out that it had either allowed or directly led to his Nazism, and I suggested that he addresses this problem in his later work. Well, here he has addressed it. If you're smarter than I am, you may have noticed that challenging forth, Enframing, standing reserve, the view of the world as masterable, all sound suspiciously like how Heidegger characterized inauthenticity in Being in Time. I mean, in everydayness, we truly do see the world as something that should conform to our whims. We see it as something to get frustrated at when it doesn't go our way. We see it as instrumental in our everyday lives, all subsumed into whatever goal I have for the moment. In these later essays, though, Heidegger diagnoses inauthenticity as a cultural, historical condition, one which is far larger than any single person. This makes sense. as Heidegger's turn was in part motivated by his wanting to move past his mistakes with being in time. What were those mistakes? Well, that book is chiefly concerned with the overturning of the view of human beings in the world as a Cartesian ego subject encountering a world of masterable objects in mathematical space. He wanted to get past the rampant subjectivism he saw as isolating and nihilistic. While he was partially successful, his philosophy of authenticity was far too subjectivistic, based on willing, resolute individuals. One must remain resolute in the face of anxiety. One must own one's choices, come back to one's own most self. One need only see the existentialists for further evidence of this mistake. They took Heidegger's philosophy of authenticity and ran with it, creating further subjectivistic systems of philosophy and humanism. He didn't like where this led, and saw that authenticity and inauthenticity as he had seen it then only reinforced the willing subject, reinforced the metaphysics of the past that he had been trying to overthrow. Responding almost directly to Sartre, Heidegger wrote, "Every humanism is either grounded in a metaphysics or is itself made to be the ground of one. Every determination of the essence of man that already presupposes an interpretation of beings without asking about the truth of being, whether knowingly or not, is metaphysical." Here it seems as if he's just rejecting his interpreters, but that he moved from this subjectivistic characterization shows that he himself disagreed with his own interpretation. His overemphasizing of the will seems to have directly come from Nietzsche, and likely led to his involvement with the Third Reich. Heidegger became convinced that willing and resolute individuals were what our ailing world needed, and the Führer was nothing if not willing and resolute. So, after accidentally reinforcing the subjectivist metaphysics of philosophy and a philosophically motivated political disaster, he moved to diagnose inauthenticity as a mostly cultural understanding of being. We are raised in a world that sees being as objective and masterable, and are kind of stuck in this frame of mind. So what does authenticity look like in this world? And how does it relate to the saving power of questioning and thinking? Remember this quote from earlier? "Always the destining of revealing holds complete sway over men. But that destining is never a fate that compels, for man becomes truly free insofar as he belongs to the realm of destining, and so becomes one who listens, though not one who simply obeys." For the late Heidegger, the authentic person is the person who is open to the call of a new understanding of being, of amazing new insights. We need to think, which means an openness for beings. Thinking here is the leaping we keep mentioning. Though we may not founder in such a leap, what the leap takes us to will confound us. The matter of thinking is always confounding, all the more in proportion as we keep clear of prejudice. To keep clear of prejudice, we must be ready and willing to listen. Such readiness allows us to surmount the boundaries in which all customary views are confined, and to reach more open terrain. We have to leap out of typical ways of thinking, let new ways of being and understanding of being be granted to us. The mystery cannot be solved by representational thinking, for such thinking involves grasping and manipulating. The ways we think are polluted by inauthenticity, by the call of enframing to master and order and manipulate. But it seems like we are in the same trap. We need to think and find a new way of understanding to combat the rising tide of enframing and inauthenticity. So we have to try and think. In other words, we have to will. And the willing, resolute subject was exactly what Heidegger tried to overcome. Well, no. Think about it. You can sit down all day and try to think profound thoughts, to have a mind-blowing insight. But it's not really up to you if one occurs to you. Thoughts and insights flit in and out of existence without our control. They are granted to us. Willing to think can actually distort this process. It leads to frustration and bias and, once again, reflects a need to master. But now it's to master the genesis of your own thoughts. How ridiculous! True insight happens when we aren't trying, in the quiet moments where we aren't clouded by our own wants and needs. Genuine thinking follows the natural emergence and concealment of thought. It leaps with the thought, sees where it goes. Later authenticity is about openness to that revelation which may come to you or may not. In this case, willingness and resoluteness are counterproductive. The only will you can have is the will to no longer will. It may be useful to think of mindfulness in the sense of Zen and Taoism. Ego death, enlightenment, these are all similar ideas. All you need is the will to make the leap, the will to allow, the will to let yourself go. The authentic person is released from their ego and is ready for undistorted revelations to be granted to him. And this revelation comes from everyday life. I'm reminded of listening to the river in Hermann Hesse's novel Siddhartha. Allow yourself to be captured, disturbed, and moved by the world around you. Allow objects to have their character and value come back. In this way, the authentic person is released. They are released from the subjectivist trap of mastery. Their selves are open, and minds ready for a new understanding of being. As Michael Zimmerman summarizes so well, both resoluteness and releasement involve the loss of egoism, or self-objectification. Both involve a kind of self-sacrifice. Both claim that the truth is usually hidden, but always somehow available in everyday life. And both claim that being reveals itself in a moment of vision or a lightning flash. The purposive striving of the resolute individual is foreign to the released one. Although releasement requires steadiness, the released individual is above all patient and accepting. He knows that light breaks in at its own time. Clearly, this mature concept of authenticity is very similar to the early one, and shares many of the same characteristics, but is truly about openness this time. And the mature concept of authenticity, through thinking and leaping, can help us return to dwelling. The proper dwelling plight lies in this, that mortals ever search anew for the essence of dwelling, that they must ever learn to dwell. What if man's homelessness consisted in this, that man still does not even think of the proper plight of dwelling as the plight, yet as soon as man gives thought to his homelessness, it is misery no longer. Rightly considered and kept well in mind, it is the sole summons that calls mortals into their dwelling. Our sole hope for authenticity, for the saving power from enframing, for one more amazing Minecraft playthrough, lies in our will to give up willing, to be open to new ideas and revelations, to think, to leap, and allow our willing and call to mastery to disturb us. This topic is deeper than I can handle here. It can and will be explored in many more videos, and would really be illuminated by a comparative dialogue with Eastern thought. This will happen in a future video or two. For now, remain steady, patient, and work at thinking. Turn the noise off. Reflect, recall, allow your thoughts to take their course, and spread your ideas. And who knows? Maybe you'll even get that same feeling you got from Minecraft in your actual life. What might the new understanding of being look like? Heidegger wonders if perhaps there is a thinking that is more sober-minded than the incessant frenzy of rationalization and the intoxicating quality of cybernetics. Perhaps there is a thinking outside of the distinction of rational and irrational, more sober-minded still than scientific technology, more sober-minded and hence removed without effect, yet having its own necessity. There may be new understandings out there. We just have to be open to them. Thank you for watching. I know I strayed quite far from Minecraft at the end there, but I still think it was important to use Minecraft as a fun way to introduce the problem we face and address authenticity afterwards as a possible solution. As mentioned, there are future videos that will try to clarify further the ideas on authenticity as releasement, and also compare Heidegger with Eastern philosophy. Eventually, I plan to make economics videos as well, as that is my profession. Stay tuned for those, and please engage with this video however you see fit. I hope to see you next time.